You become like the people you surround yourself with, not just in theory, but in action, behavior, energy, and expectations. The habits you see, the conversations you hear, the standards you witness, slowly shape who you become. If you're surrounded by people who avoid growth, who make excuses, who settle for average, their influence will quietly pull you back. Not overnight, not loudly, but steadily. Because influence isn't always forceful. It's often subtle. That's the trap of comfort. The easy crowd is easy for a reason. They don't demand more from you. They don't push you to level up. They don't question your habits or challenge your standards. And you stay in that environment long enough, you'll mistake motion for progress. You'll look around after years and realize you've been stuck, circling the same conversations, the same excuses with the same people who were never trying to grow in the first place. Growth requires tension. Growth needs friction. And growth almost always shows up in the form of people who refuse to let you settle. People who challenge you. Not because they judge you, but because they respect you enough to expect more from you. When you find those people, something inside you shifts. It's uncomfortable at first. You feel exposed. You feel behind. But that's good. That's where real transformation begins. You don't grow by staying in rooms that accept your excuses. You grow when you step into environments where your potential is obvious, but your comfort is not tolerated. When you get around people who live by higher standards, it forces you to question yours. It makes you confront the gap between who you are and who you could be. And that confrontation is necessary. It wakes you up. There's always a price for staying in the easy crowd. The price is your potential. The price is your growth. Eventually, you either rise or you resent. Resent the people who held you back. Resent yourself for staying too long. But there's another path, a harder, lonelier, but necessary path. The path of leaving comfort behind. Not because you think you're better, but because you know you need to become better. You need people who don't celebrate your excuses. People who don't allow you to stay small. People who show you how much higher the bar can be set. And when you find them, they won't be impressed by talk. They'll be watching action. They won't comfort your stagnation. They'll call you forward. Growth doesn't happen accidentally. It's not going to sneak up on you while you stay comfortable. Growth happens when you put yourself in rooms that scare you a little, or rooms where you're not the smartest, not the strongest, not the one with all the answers, or rooms where you are expected to stretch, to learn, to rise. If you want to grow, leave the easy crowd. Seek challenge. Seek pressure. Seek the environments that demand your best. Because that's where your future lies. That's where the next version of you is waiting. Most people never even stop to consider the environments they choose. They just drift into them. Into whatever's familiar, whatever's nearby, whoever's comfortable. They tell themselves things like, these are my people, or we've known each other forever, or I'm just being loyal. But growth doesn't care about history. Growth doesn't care how long you've known somebody. Growth doesn't care about nostalgia or comfort. Growth asks one question. Are they helping you level up, or are they helping you stay exactly the same? And that's a hard thing to face. Because the truth is, the people closest to you are usually the hardest to evaluate. They know your past. They know your struggles. They've shared your stories. They were there when nobody else was. But sometimes that history becomes a chain. Sometimes the very people who were perfect for your past become poison for your future. Not because they're bad people, but because they're attached to a version of you that no longer exists. Or worse, a version of you that you're trying to kill off. And it doesn't always come with hate or loud criticism. Sometimes it's a look. Sometimes it's a subtle joke when you say something ambitious. Sometimes it's silence when you talk about your dreams. And you feel it. That unspoken pressure to shrink, to play small, to not outgrow the circle. At first you ignore it. You tell yourself it's no big deal. But little by little, it adds up. You stop speaking certain ideas out loud. You stop bringing up your goals. You water down your words. You adjust to stay comfortable in the room. And over time, you build a life around fitting in instead of leveling up. That's how people get stuck. That's how dreams get small. That's how ambition turns into regret. But if you're lucky, there comes a moment, a sharp, brutal moment, where you wake up and realize, this isn't growth. This is survival. This isn't love. This is comfort. This is my future. This is me living on autopilot. And that moment is a gift because it gives you permission to choose again, to raise your standards, to stop protecting environments that reward your silence, to stop defending relationships that only exist as long as you stay small. Growth isn't betrayal. Growth is responsibility. Responsibility to your potential, to your calling, to the future version of yourself that refuses to settle. And yes, it's going to hurt. Leaving is hard. Outgrowing people is painful. Walking away from comfort feels like breaking your own heart. You'll feel alone. You'll question yourself. You'll wonder if you're being too cold, too selfish, too ambitious. But remember this. Staying small to protect other people's comfort is the fastest way to destroy your own future. You are not responsible for anyone else's comfort. You are responsible for your own growth. And growth often requires separation, not because you're better than anyone, but because you've decided you're no longer willing to stay trapped in a version of life that doesn't fit who you're becoming. Because there are people out there, the real ones, who will get it. Who won't flinch when you raise your standards? Who won't be intimidated when you show up differently? Who will challenge your excuses? Who will clap for your discipline? Who will match your energy and demand your best? Not because they're trying to control you, but because that's how they live. That's the environment you want. That's the circle that makes you dangerous. The people who challenge your language. The people who raise their eyebrows when you sound average. The people who won't let you coast. The people who ask better questions. The people who aren't impressed by potential because they expect execution. And being around those people will stretch you. It will frustrate you. It will expose the parts of you that want to hide. But that's exactly the point. Growth lives in pressure. Excellence lives in friction. Change lives in discomfort. If everyone around you is perfectly comfortable with your habits, your routines, your laziness, your patterns, it's time to audit your circle. Because the wrong environment will normalize weakness. The right environment will demand greatness. The wrong environment will celebrate survival. The right environment will expect mastery. You want to grow? Get uncomfortable? Walk into the rooms that make you second guess yourself. Not because you don't belong, but because they force you to rise. Get around people whose very existence makes you better. Get around people who don't tolerate excuses because they've killed their own. That's how you level up. Not in isolation, not in comfort, but in proximity to greatness. Because proximity is power. And sooner or later you will rise or fall to the level of the room you choose to stay in. Most people never think about the environments they choose. They stick to what's familiar. Who they've always known, what's comfortable, what's close. They tell themselves it's loyalty. They convince themselves, these are my people. But growth doesn't care about history. Growth only cares about one thing. Are they helping you grow or are they helping you stay the same? See, the hardest people to outgrow are the ones you've known forever. But sometimes they're tied to a version of you that you've outgrown or trying to outgrow. It's rarely loud. It's subtle. It's the passive-aggressive comments when you dream out loud. The silence when you talk about doing something different. The jokes that sting just a little too much. It's not direct resistance. It's pressure to stay the same. And that's dangerous. Because slowly, without noticing, you begin to adapt. You stop dreaming out loud. You water down your goals. You shrink to match the level of the room. And suddenly your whole life revolves around fitting in, not leveling up. That's why the moment you become aware of it, that pressure, that unspoken expectation to stay small, it's a gift. It's your wake-up call. It's a line in the sand. Will you keep adjusting to your environment, or will you start adjusting your environment to fit the person you're becoming? Because growth is going to cost you something. It might cost you comfort. It might cost you approval. It might cost you relationships that are built on who you used to be, not who you are now. But there are people out there who won't flinch when you level up. They won't feel threatened when you go harder. They'll challenge you. They'll expect more from you. Not out of judgment, but out of respect. They live their life with high standards, and they expect the same from everyone around them. Those are the people who force you to rise. And yes, being around those people will make you uncomfortable at first. You'll feel behind. You'll feel exposed. You'll feel like you've got work to do. Because you do, but that's where growth happens. If everyone in your circle is comfortable with your current habits, your current standards, your current pace, that's a warning sign. Growth doesn't happen where you're celebrated for staying the same. It happens where you're challenged to become more. That's why you have to choose your environments deliberately. You have to get around people who force you to stretch, who challenge your excuses, who don't let you lie to yourself. Not because they want to control you, but because they refuse to watch you settle. And when you find that kind of circle, stay close. Learn from them. Let their focus sharpen yours. Let their discipline expose your distractions. Let their standard challenge your laziness. Because there's a version of you that only comes alive in those rooms. The version of you that doesn't play small. The version of you that doesn't wait for approval. The version of you that stops living in the shadow of comfort and starts building a life at full capacity. That version is waiting on the other side of easy. You have to break free. You have to get around people who move different. People who lead themselves, people chasing big things, people living in truth, operating in excellence, unbothered by approval, unshaken by comfort. They don't waste time on small talk or small minds. They're busy building, thinking, moving. And if you're serious, if you move like it, they'll make time for you too. But first, you have to become that person. Stop waiting to be led. Lead yourself. Stop waiting for a perfect crowd. Elevate until the right people recognize you. And don't beg for a seat at someone else's table. Build your own. Build it on values, on standards, on growth, on discipline. And everything changes. The rooms you walk in change. The energy changes. The opportunities change because you've changed. Growth demands honesty, real honesty. The kind that stings. The kind that calls you out in the middle of your own sentence. The kind that doesn't sugarcoat or add excuses after the truth. And you can't keep that kind of honesty alive if you keep yourself surrounded by people addicted to comfort. People who protect their own smallness will protect yours too. Not out of hate, but out of fear. That's why the easy crowd is dangerous. They want comfort. They want validation. They want company while they stay exactly where they are. So when you start talking different, moving different, dreaming bigger, they feel exposed. And their reaction? Sarcasm, distance, pass, and doubt. And that's your signal. Time to go. You don't grow by maintaining comfort for other people. You grow by choosing integrity over approval, loyalty to your future over loyalty to your past. And yeah, that comes with resistance. That comes with friction. But growth is supposed to create friction. That's the cost of becoming who you were built to be. See, real rooms don't let you drift. Real rooms don't clap for average. Real rooms force you to evolve or exit. And most people won't stay. They'll call it toxic. They'll say it's too intense. But what they really mean is, I'm not ready to let go of my excuses. That can't be you. You have to be the one who stays, the one who feels that pressure and rises with it, because that pressure is healthy. That friction is clarity. That discomfort is where your growth lies. And once you normalize that pressure, consistency gets easier. Discipline gets real. Self-leadership becomes non-negotiable. And now your life is no longer at the mercy of your environment. It's controlled by your standard. But never forget, even the strongest weaken in the wrong crowd. Even the clearest lose focus in the wrong conversations. So stay intentional. Protect your energy like it's your future, because it is. Don't negotiate with people who only want the old version of you. Don't explain growth to people who refuse to grow themselves. And stop waiting to be understood by people who don't even understand themselves. Surround yourself with builders, with people who move on purpose. People too busy becoming their best selves to gossip about someone else's. People who hold you accountable not because they doubt you, but because they believe you're built for more. And when you start moving like that, when you show up like that, everything shifts. Your circle changes. Your conversations evolve. Your whole rhythm upgrades. Eventually, the version of you that once needed comfort, validation, and permission, that version dies. Not out of cruelty, out of evolution, out of alignment. And yes, people will say you've changed, and they'll be right. Because staying the same, that was never the goal. Leaving your old self behind, that was always the mission. When you were part of the easy crowd, you thought keeping things light and comfortable was the goal. But now you know better. Comfort without growth is stagnation. Approval without accountability is empty. And surface level relationships are nothing but distractions disguised as connection. Now you want more. Not more noise, but more alignment, more truth, more challenge, more connection with people who are building, becoming, evolving. People who aren't intimidated by your goals because they're chasing their own. And yes, the transition is lonely. Walking away from the crowd that kept you small comes with silence, doubt, and space that feels uncomfortable. But comfort isn't safety. Comfort is repetition. Growth is safety. Knowing that no matter who leaves or stays, you can count on yourself. And that's when new people show up. Not because you wished for them, but because you made space for them. You cleared the room. And these new people, they don't ask you to shrink. They don't flinch when you speak about dreams. They don't laugh when you talk about evolving. They hold you to what you said. They expect more from you because they expect more from themselves. You don't grow by always being the most impressive person in the room. You grow by being the least. You grow by being humbled, by being surrounded by people who challenge you to rise, who strip away your ego and expose your work. That's what the easy crowd never gave you. It's truth. Not the fake, shallow truth that makes you feel good for a minute, but real truth. The kind that stings, but the kind that pulls greatness out of you. Great leaders don't coddle you. They challenge you. They don't comfort your excuses. They disrupt them. Growth isn't comfortable. Growth feels like exposure. It's supposed to. Because you can't heal what you hide. You can't change what you're not willing to confront. And the crowd you choose will either hold space for your expansion or pressure you to stay small. Now you choose differently. You choose alignment over agreement. You choose voices that stretch you over voices that flatter you. You've decided being liked is not worth being limited. And once you step into that new season, one built on growth, clarity, and accountability, the loneliness starts to fade. It gets replaced by depth, by real connections, by people who grow as you grow, who expect more because they see more. Leaving the easy crowd was never about proving them wrong. It was about proving yourself right, about honoring the version of you that demands more. The version of you that refuses to stay comfortable just to stay accepted. Growth isn't a phase. It's a lifestyle, a standard. And that standard keeps evolving. Every level you reach comes with new lessons, new expectations, new responsibility. The easy crowd might tell you you've done enough, But growth will always whisper, keep going. Not because you're never satisfied, but because you know you were built for more, built to carry more, built to lead more. Leadership isn't claimed, it's earned. Earned in consistency, earned in clarity, earned in showing up when others would have walked away. And that's the life you've chosen now. But here's the truth. Every level of growth comes with a test. Not from the world, from you. A test to see if your new standard is real or temporary. A test to see if you'll follow through when no one's watching, when no one's clapping, when it feels like no one gets it but you. This is where your mindset gets built. Because the easy crowd makes growth a performance. But real growth, high-level living, demands that it becomes your nature. Not something you do when it's convenient. Not something you do when people are watching. Something you do because it's who you are now. That's self-leadership, that's integrity. And that kind of integrity gives you peace. Not peace from the world. Peace from within. The peace that comes from knowing you are exactly who you say you are. That you don't need anyone else's approval to stay consistent. You don't outsource your identity anymore. And that peace, it makes you dangerous. Not arrogant, but grounded. You stop moving based on noise. You stop chasing validation. And naturally, your relationships change too. Because you're no longer looking for people to carry you. You carry yourself. And because of that, you attract people who do the same. Not codependents, but builders. Not people looking to stay comfortable, but people chasing clarity, chasing mission. But understand this, these people, this energy isn't passive. They don't want small talk. They don't need endless explanations. They're building. They're moving. They're focused. And if you're moving in alignment, they'll see you. They'll recognize the work in you. And when that happens, relationships won't feel forced. They'll feel effortless because mission-driven people don't compete. They collaborate. But to stay in that room, you've got to keep evolving. You can't cling to who you used to be. Not even if that version of you helped you survive past seasons. You can honor your past without living there. You can carry your lessons without carrying your limits. Every time you cling to the old version of yourself, you create friction with your future. Every time you try to mix old habits with new goals, you slow everything down. At some point, you have to let go. Not because it's easy, but because you know the cost of staying the same. Growth requires walking into seasons where you feel unqualified but committed, where you're figuring it out as you go, where belief runs ahead of comfort. That's the process. And no, it's not easy. But you weren't made for easy. You were made for evolution. And evolution happens in rooms where truth gets spoken, where mirrors get held up, where people don't need to yell because their life already speaks loud enough. That's mentorship, not hype. Wisdom, not status. Experience, not noise. Depth. People who've paid the price, who don't flex for applause, but live with quiet strength because they know exactly what happens when you settle for less than you're capable of. So when you find them, don't show up trying to impress. Show up honest. Show up real. Show up ready to do the work. Because that's when everything shifts. That's when you stop seeking permission and start practicing presence. That's when you stop trying to be seen and start living like someone who is already seen. And the more you grow, the less you'll talk about it. Your proof will be in your consistency. Your evidence will be in your energy. And one day, the same people who questioned your direction will be watching your discipline, wondering how you never quit. Discipline is what separates those who dream from those who execute. Not talent, not intelligence, not luck, discipline. Because when the hype fades, when the applause dies, when the motivation disappears, discipline is what keeps you going. Discipline keeps your potential from sinking back into average. It's not built when things are easy. It's built when things get hard, in resistance, in repetition, in doing what needs to be done long after the feeling to do it is gone. And that discipline lives and dies with your standards. Not the soft, convenient standards most people settle for. Real standards. Personal, unbreakable, non-negotiable standards set by the person you're becoming, not the person you've been. But the easy crowd doesn't live like that. They show up when it's fun, commit when it's easy, disappear when it's hard. And if you stay around that energy long enough, you start to absorb it. Not because you want to, but because energy leaks. And if your environment doesn't sharpen you, it dulls you. At some point, you have to choose comfort or consistency. You don't get both. Real discipline shows up before you feel like it. It keeps promises no one else sees. It doesn't wait for motivation. It doesn't perform for crowds. It moves because that's who you are now. You are either disciplined or inconsistent. There is no middle. And when you choose discipline enough times, it becomes automatic. It shapes how you move, how you think, how you lead yourself. It becomes part of your story. A story people notice not because it's loud, but because it's relentless. The best in the world aren't always the most talented. They're the most consistent. They stay sharp when others slack. They keep growing when others plateau. They learn when others settle. Because discipline is built in the dark, when no one's watching, when no one's clapping. When it's just you and the standard you promised yourself you'd hold. That's what separates leaders from followers. Leaders don't wait for accountability. They are accountability. They don't need reminders to execute. They don't need applause to be excellent. They wake up and choose it every day. And when discipline becomes non-negotiable, momentum shows up. Not all at once, not overnight, but slowly, undeniably. Action builds structure. Structure builds belief. Belief builds identity. And once identity locks in, everything shifts. People around you feel it. The ones who want to rise, lean in. The ones who want to stay comfortable, fall away. And that's exactly how it should be. Your life isn't built for approval. It's built for alignment. It's built for truth. And truth doesn't keep crowds. It attracts the right people. Those who hold you higher. Those who expect more. Those who don't clap for excuses. This is the environment where legacy is built. And it's harder, no doubt. But you weren't built for easy. You were built to sustain greatness, not visit it once. Not taste it for a moment, but live there daily. Because legacy isn't just what you achieve. It's how you live. It's how you lead yourself when no one's looking. And if you're still walking with the easy crowd, the crowd that celebrates your comfort more than your character, you are giving away your future. Not because you lack potential, but because you lack the courage to step away from people who require nothing from you. That's what stops most people. Not time, not talent, courage. Courage to walk away from circles that expect nothing. Courage to step into environments that challenge everything. Because when you walk differently, those who stayed still will talk. They'll label you, misunderstand you, criticize you. That's fine, because their words say everything about them and nothing about you. You're not here to stay comfortable. You're here to grow. You're here to lead. You're here to leave a mark so real, so undeniable, that your very life becomes proof of what happens when discipline wins. And it only wins if you choose it every single day. Growth will isolate you before it connects you. It strips you down before it builds you up. It takes you through seasons where your only fuel is discipline, your only friend is vision, your only anchor is your word. But on the other side, that solitude is real strength. And with that strength comes influence. Not because you chased attention, but because your consistency earned trust, your clarity attracted alignment, and your commitment created momentum. One day you'll look up and realize you've built something real, something people feel, something that no longer needs to chase crowds because it creates its own. People who value growth live for challenge and demand excellence. But none of that happens if you refuse to leave. Leave comfort, leave approval, leave the version of you that made other people feel comfortable while keeping you small. Growth has a price, but it has a reward too. Peace. Not just success, but alignment. Not just winning in public, but becoming whole in private. You were not built for small. You weren't built to float through life hoping to fit in. You were built to lead, to build, to expand. And that doesn't happen in easy rooms. That happens when you raise your standard, when you stop apologizing for your evolution, when you surround yourself with people who live what they preach. Because the easy crowd, they don't care if you grow. They don't challenge your thinking. They don't confront your patterns. They let you repeat. They let you shrink. And after a while, you feel it. Frustration, restlessness, that quiet voice whispering, there's more to you than this. That voice won't go away. You can distract yourself for a while, but it always comes back because you know the truth. You were built for more. Growth means leaving the familiar. It means letting go of old roles. It means risking being misunderstood. But every time you choose growth over ease, you build something unshakable. Trust in yourself, discipline in your actions, clarity in your mission. And eventually that becomes who you are. Not someone hoping for growth, but someone committed to it. This is that moment. No more waiting. No more shrinking. No more blending in. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to act. You already know what needs to go. You already know what no longer fits. You already know who brings the best out of you. Now's the time to draw the line. Raise the bar. Not from anger, but from clarity. Not for approval, but for alignment. You don't need a crowd. You need truth. You don't need applause. You need consistency. And if you live that way, growth stops being optional. It becomes inevitable, daily, deeply, undeniably.